Hi, Talia.
Hi, Mehru.
How are you?
I am doing A-okay. I'm actually doing fantastically. Seeing you, I'm much more happy now.
Yes, same here. You're the only person I get ready for on a Saturday night, so
That's very true as well, Mehru. You're the only person that I get ready for as well.
I,
हमारी
I'm
कितनी रंगीन जिंदगी है हमारी. For anybody who has any sort of stereotypes or a conception about हम दोनों कैसे हैं, me and Mehru dress up for each other.
so,
There you go.
exactly. और हम full like you're looking very good, by the way. So हम full तैयार होते हैं like for these podcasts, which I'm really glad about.
मेरू आज मेरे साथ ना बहुत ही ना बुरी हुई है.
क्यों?
Like I was so proactive. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be ready on time. And like my last podcast tha, so I got ready. I took a shower earlier. I did my hair and everything. Then I went out to run a couple of errands. और बाहर कोई like monsoon type of rain हो रही थी, and my hair became a full frizz ball. So I came home and I was like, okay, Talia, this is not gonna work. We're not gonna scare anybody on screen today. So let's get ready again. So that's why मैं थोड़ी सी लेट हुई थी, मगर क्या करूं guys, मैं
कोई
हमेशा
मसला
लेट.
नहीं है. I don't mind waiting because मेरे पास भी और कुछ करने को है नहीं, so it's all good. तुम इस चीज का फायदा उठाओ, ठीक है? जब भी लेट होना है हो जाओ, आपको इजाजत है.
चलो
Yeah.
कोई
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate that, Meru.
Yeah, no worries. Or Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
It's 2021. Whoop, whoop. We have a lot of plans for this year. We're not going to discuss them in this episode. We will talk about them later. But yeah, so hopefully everybody had a safe New Year's Eve and yeah, Happy New Year. So Talia, do you want to get into our topic or do you want to talk something about 2021? Do you have any well wishes for everybody? Bless you. Alhamdulillah. Bless you.
I don't know where that came from. कोई मुझे याद कर रहा है था. पता नहीं कौन.
Maybe
मेरे
you're not wearing
ऑफिस
socks.
मेरे ऑफिस वाले मुझे याद करे जो 2 दिन में स्टार्ट होने वाला है.
Monday को देखेंगे आपको.
I just have a lot of hope for the new year, a lot of duas and prayers, and I just hope that this year brings peace and happiness and health for everybody around. And I think I just want to thank everybody who supported us in this last year. And this year we are committed to creating much more fun content and, you know, growing Arz Kiya Hai podcast. And honestly, आजकल, like I've been having conversations with different people of different age groups, and the feedback that I'm getting for the podcast is amazing. It's really helping me know that the purpose that I committed to is being fulfilled. And I wonder if that's how you're feeling too, Meru.
Yeah, no, for sure. And when people say like, "Oh, we watched your episode," and then they take out specific things that they liked or they like the discussion, I really, really appreciate that. That means the point has gone across, and that is something that lit the light bulb in their brains, and I really love that. So thank you everybody for watching and sharing as well. Really, really appreciate that. I want Talia, before we get into the podcast, I want to ask you, what are 2 things, or as many as you want to say, things you learned in 2020? I'm putting you on the spot here, but think of it now.
First thing is, I've learned that space creates distance as well. So if you have an argument with somebody, and if you are not being able to communicate or something is bothering you, and the other person is saying they need space, sometimes, yes, people need space, but I think if there is a conflict, usko resolve karo right away, communicate karo. I've seen relationships breaking down a lot, and a lot of it is because of a lack of communication. And I think knowing, I think this past year has made it much more evident कि हमारी जिंदगी बहुत fragile है हम सब की. और just tell people you love them, and if you don't feel comfortable being around somebody, you know what, move on. Don't waste your energy, don't waste anybody else's energy. Just move on and really address the situation, right? Like, look after yourself. Setting those boundaries are important with space, but just know this space sometimes is not the right answer, and I've seen a lot of people have been doing that, myself included. And sometimes it's been fantastic. It was exactly what I needed and exactly what somebody else needed. But if you but just know that that's a breakdown of a relationship, because if you cannot be around somebody for a prolonged period of time, then that means that relationship is no longer going to be supporting you in the future. And sometimes you outgrow people, that you have to become comfortable with that. You're gonna love people so much. There's some people in your life that you love wholeheartedly, but you outgrow the relationship.
So that is wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that, and just accepting that कि कभी कभार you are at a point in life जहाँ पे अभी दूसरे बंदे नहीं पहुंचे हैं, and those people mean the world to you, but they're just not necessarily there. And stop feeling like you shouldn't be growing or you're doing something wrong. It hurts like hell. I'm not gonna lie. बहुत मुश्किल होता है, especially अगर आपके कोई loved one है जो stage पर है. But अपनी growth को value करो, अपने viewpoints को value करो. I think that's very, very important. So ये मेरा, I think, core, I guess,
theme of the year.
Theme point था exactly. Or resilience, I think, was another thing. कि हर यार कुछ भी होता है, कुछ भी होता है. Just know you'll be okay. Just tell yourself that. I've been saying, so I follow Marie Forleo, and she always says everything is figure outable, right? Honestly, everything is figure outable.
For sure.
Sometimes, like, it's been a hell of a ride, right? There's been such highs and such lows, and अगर मैं ये viewpoint ना रखती, पता नहीं मैं कैसे survive करती कई चीजें last year, right? Yeah. But it was this point कि I had to keep telling myself, कि acceptance and submitting to the universe. Sorry, ये बहुत क्या कहते हैं बड़े थे, मगर ये दो चीजें definitely.
No, for sure.
Communicate, resolve your issues. जो भी है, अगर किसी को space देनी है और खत्म करना है, वो करो. कोई resolve करना है issue, उसको resolve करो.
Either patch it up or move on, but be able to end that story right there.
Exactly. Hang up mat karo.
Yeah.
और दूसरी चीज ये कि everything is figure outable, guys. Like सब कुछ हो जाएगा. Like we are so resilient, and it's your choice it is truly your choice what you choose to focus on. Do you focus on the loss? Do you focus on the sadness? Do you focus on the challenge? Or do you focus on the solution?
For sure. That's a really good advice / what you learned this year for yourself. Good advice, Talia.
मैं तो ज्ञान देती रहती हूँ.
हाँ, दिया करो जरूर.
Mehru, what about you? What are you?
अच्छा, मैं भी बताना था. मुझे भी बताना था.
कुछ भी सीखा क्या?
मैंने खुद नहीं सोचा यार एक सवाल पूछने से पहले. अच्छा, I probably learned कि I think one of them was that everything just falls back into place. Everything is figured outable. The other thing I learned was कि maybe not learned, but it was emphasized. This was like कि कल किसी ने नहीं देखा, so जो करना है अभी करो, put your mind to it, focus on it. हाँ, मुश्किल होता है focus करना, but कल किसी ने नहीं देखा, and life is short. अभी कर लो जो करना है, कल कुछ और कर लेना. Basically, that's one of the main things. अभी मैं और कुछ सोच नहीं सकती. But yeah, those are a few things that I learned this year.
That's pretty good, Mehru. Don't worry. All right, guys. So today we're going to talk about biases and stereotypes against Desi women. Essentially, हम सारी जो Desi ladies हैं, women हैं, we grow up trying to live this Desi ideal Desi woman. और हम में से किसी को नहीं पता really कि ये ideal Desi woman है कौन, and why is she important in our lives? कि we are trying to prepare for her, or what is that woman trying to prepare for anyways, right? So we are going to talk about that. We're going to deconstruct this identity जो हमने बनाई है, एक ideal बनाया है, और उसको figure out करना है कि ये harmful कैसे है for Desi women. Or I think एक और बड़ी important चीज़ है the context कि me and Mehru are women who are immigrant women. So we've grown up in two societies. We've grown up in Pakistan, and we've grown up in Canada. And being a Desi woman, you're not just subjected to a singular set of bias, right? Or discrimination or stereotype. There's two levels. एक होता है आप internally आपकी community के अंदर आपको gaze किया जाता है. So that is within the South Asian diaspora. जो Desi community है, they will look at you a certain way and set certain ideals. And within them, the elders or the social constructs, they're looking at you a certain way. And then your counterparts, the other your younger, you can say people who are your age, boys and girls are gonna look at you a different way and expect you to, and we patrol each other. हम एक दूसरे को police करते हैं based on these ideals. Then it's the external community. where you can say like multicultural community mein rehte hain, jahan pe you'll have white people, you have people from other cultures, right? How are they looking at you? And the discrimination that you face as a Desi woman in the workplace, for example, या school में या wider societies. So there are all of these biases that Desi women over here are trying, और आप एक identity crisis में almost हो जाते हो, right?
बिल्कुल.
And a lot of our podcast kind of started from this as well, right? Like, who are we trying to please? किसको खुश करें, right? हम अपनी माँ बाप को खुश करें, अपने चाचा ताइयों को खुश करें, हम अपने क्या कहते हैं उन जो पर्सपेक्टिव हमारे सूटर्स हैं उनको खुश करें,
हल्ले के लोगों को प्लीज करें, किसको?
या फिर हम जाके अपने दफ्तर में जाके वहां पे जो रेसिज्म है उसको फेस करें और डिस्क्रिमिनेशन को फेस करें और फिर आगे जाके जी घर में आके अवार्ड्स भी लेकर आए. सो लाइक व्हाट आर ऑल दीज आइडियाज, राइट? तो इसके बारे में आज हमने बात करनी है और आई एम रियली एक्साइटेड टू हैव दिस चैट टुडे विद यू, Mehru.
I think it's a very heavy topic, and it's always fun questioning your own biases, your own stereotypes that you've heard in your childhood. और आप अभी देखो बहुत सारे biases मैं हमेशा कहती हूँ कि जैसे अच्छा लेट्स गिव एन एग्जांपल. उस दिन तालिया और मैं ये टॉपिक को प्रिपेयर करने के लिए हम इम्प्लिसिट एसोसिएशन टेस्ट कर रहे थे. बेसिकली वी वर क्वेश्चनिंग आवर बायसेस, चेकिंग, टेस्टिंग इट. और उसमें एक टेस्ट था जी, आई थिंक इट वाज
implicit gender bias.
अच्छा, तो वो हम कर रहे थे, ठीक है. और मेरा बेसिकली रिजल्ट उसमें ये आया कि आई एसोसिएट मेल्स विद साइंस कैटेगरीज, राइट, साइंस करियर्स, एंड आई एसोसिएट फीमेल्स विद humanities, right, so arts, English, literature and stuff like that. Now how it was really really sad for me to see that result, and मैं तो टेस्ट के बारे में बात भी नहीं करूंगी क्योंकि वो रिग्ड था, ठीक है. उन्होंने मुझे कंडीशन किया था कि मैं ये बोलूं, बट जो भी है रिजल्ट यही आया. ताले ऐसे मत देखो मुझे. तो रिजल्ट ये आया और मैं थी लाइक आई वाज लाइक ये क्या बकवास है, राइट? मैं नहीं, आई वाज लाइक नहीं, मुझे पता है कि औरतें डॉक्टर बन सकती हैं, मुझे पता है औरतें इंजीनियर बन सकती हैं, बट क्यों है ये कि मैंने ऐसे नेचुरली और इम्प्लिसिटली मैं ये बिलीव करती हूँ कि मॉडरेटली, बाय द वे, ऐसे नहीं था कि एक्सट्रीमली आई बिलीव, मेरा रिजल्ट मॉडरेटली था. तो ये हमारा इम्प्लिसिट बायस है, राइट? ये चीज़ें हमें, आपको लगता है आप किसी चीज़ में बिलीव करते हो, बट ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम बचपन से आपको इतना कंडीशन किया जाता है, इतनी ज़्यादा चीज़ें आपको बताई जाती हैं कि वो इंग्रेन हो जाती हैं आपके माइंड में, राइट? और ये आपको नहीं पता कि आपके दिमाग में हैं, मगर these are our biases, right? And that's why it's such a heavy topic, because this podcast, I think we're going to discuss those, and it's going to be really fun, because again, जैसे ताले उस दिन आपने मुझे एग्जांपल दिया था कि जब आप किसी औरत को स्क्रब्स में देखते हो तो आपको लगता है वो नर्स है, राइट? मगर जब आप किसी मर्द को स्क्रब्स में देखते हो तो आपको लगता है वो डॉक्टर है, right? Now that is an example of a bias, a stereotype that's been ingrained in your mind, right? So that's why it's going to be really fun talking about this.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, okay, let's say we say, oh, our parent is in the military. Automatically, wo parent kaun
The
hai?
dad.
Do you think it's a dad, right?
Yeah.
Or, oh, my parent is a teacher.
The mom.
Mom, right?
Yeah.
और अच्छा मैं एक बात बस बोलना चाहती हूँ कि I'm really glad मेरू ने उस टेस्ट के बारे में बात की, मगर नाजरीन, and I like the fact कि हम बोल सकते हैं नाजरीन, मैंने भी वो टेस्ट किया था, and I would just like to say कि my result was that I do not particularly associate any gender with a career. So guys, if we just want to take this moment and recognize that the person who is woke and the most, you know,
maybe, you know what, Talia, maybe it is also possible, just because we were talking about we've been brought up in two different societies. You had more years in Canada than I did. So maybe we could talk about the influence of the South Asian community on my upbringing and how much I'm conditioned to think that men are supposed to go in science degrees and women are supposed to go.
अभी रेसिज्म की ना डंडे पड़ जाने हैं तो रहने दो इसे.
नहीं, बट सच है ना यार, आपके कितने रोल मॉडल्स हैं पाकिस्तान में के जो डॉक्टर्स हैं, और राइट,
वहां पे तो डेफिनेटली यार, लाइक आपको ये वहां पे तो किसी भी चीज के रोल मॉडल हमारे बड़े कम हैं.
Yeah,
which is sad, which is really sad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think let's just sort of unpack के bias होता क्या है, right? We talk about the word bias so much, right? So Verna Myers, she's a diversity advocate, and she works on biases a lot. तो वो एक definition उन्होंने बनाई है, बड़ी अच्छी. I really like her definition, and her definition is, or her explanation is, that biases are stories we make up of people before we even know them. So that's a bias that you have, right? You're making up a story when you see somebody like because mere samne so Mehru hai, and I see Mehru in this leopard print outfit, Mehru with her dyed hair, and like, you know, I see her wearing a nut and all this, and I see her like, you know, full makeup and all this. In my mind, these are automatically like I have schemas, like mere na categorizations and brain mein, which are like going ting 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 ting, just the same as hum bachon ko sikhate hain ki let's say you see a lion, right, and you associate like teeth and claws and big arm muscles, right? You're thinking that's a danger, or you see a like these are different. Your brain starts creating ting ting ting. That does not necessarily mean that lion is going to do anything. It could have been a lion that was actually kept in captivity and it doesn't actually even hunt or prey, right? For prey, मगर for example, आपने automatically वो सब देख के एक schema बना लिया अपने एक stereotype बना लिया. So what is a stereotype then? Stereotypes are basically mistaken beliefs. ये एक oversimplified images होते हैं of a group of, or people or a thing, and you take and they're largely untrue, and you use that to make a story about somebody.
Because those are not facts.
Yeah. ये facts नहीं है.
Exactly.
It's only from the outside that you're making a judgment, right? For example, like, you know, you may have heard growing up, like, you know, oh, Gori girls are going to be, they're more a loose character or something, whatever that means, right? Desi ladkiyan badi achhi hoti, changi hoti hain, ye wo. All of these different, or people who drink are bad people, for example. These are all biases that we've created about people. Biases harmful क्यों होते हैं? Because they become prejudice in the sense कि आप एक group को या एक चीज को preference देते हो over another group. So यहाँ पे ये harmful होने शुरू हो जाते हैं, right?
This can automatically become oppressive, right?
Absolutely. अब ये क्यों है? For example, हम अभी शादियों के बारे में बात करेंगे, right? Like we'll talk about that. कि आप what type of people are we're saying, oh, they're more desirable. जो औरत, right? तो जब हम देसी औरत के बारे में बात करते हैं, there's a certain stereotype or this ideal desi woman which is preferred, and if you don't hit that mark, you are now not the preferred woman. You're less desirable, and you're going to be segregated, right? For example. So I think we can talk about this in like a couple of different ways. One, we'll talk about looking at the ideal desi woman through the lens of traditional lens, right? And then we can talk about like our contemporary fellow, we can say desi men and women, our own age, like our counterparts, wo hame kis tarah se dekhte hain, what do they want from us? And then and each other, and then lastly jo kya kehte hain, external community jahan pe hum work karte hain, our workplace mein hame kaun se discriminations milte hain, right? Bilkul. So let's start with that. And Mehru, how about you start and you tell us if there were any desi ideal women that you thought, okay, this is what a good desi woman is or supposed to be.
For sure. Basically, जो मेरी personal life में थे, there was basically के the ideal desi woman, right? जैसे मैं ये इतना बात कहना चाहूँगी, जैसे हमने बात की थी कि ट्रैजेक्टोरी होती है, right? लड़की की लाइफ की, वो पैदा होती है, वो प्रिपेयर करती है शादी के लिए, और फिर शादी के बाद बच्चों के लिए, और फिर बच्चों के बाद she's gone. So जब मैं भी मर जाती है, right? I was just putting in nicer words, so she's gone. But you're not nice. So basically जो भी मुझे stereotypes है, जो भी मुझे सिखाया जाता या जो भी मैंने सुना था, और मैं सिखाया जाए से ये मतलब नहीं कि मेरे अम्मी अब्बू ने मुझे बैठ के ये सिखाया था कि ये होता है. सिखाए जाने से मतलब है कि जो मैं ड्रामा में देखती थी, जो मैं मूवीज में देखती थी, जो मेरे स्कूल में जो मेरे रोल मॉडल्स थे, राइट, वो क्या बातें करते थे, तो ये सारी बातों से मेरा मुराद है कि मैं सिखाया गया था मुझे. सो बेसिकली देसी वुमन क्या होती है आइडियल? वो पतली होती है, वो गोरी होती है, और वो उसको खाना बनाना आता है, वो बच्चों का अच्छी तरह ख्याल रख सकती है, she is submissive towards her husband, she is not a loud mouth, वो धीमी बोलती है. So ये मेन चीज़ें थी जो आपको पता है कि if you want to get a good rishta, if you want to get married one day and you want to live a good life, you have to check all those marks, right? Now personal life में मेरे साथ बहुत दफ़ा हुआ है, because I've always been on the heavier side, I've always been on the larger side as size. So my own aunties, khalas, papas वगैरह many a times they have said कि थोड़ी पतली हो जाओ तुम्हारे रिश्ता कैसे आएगा? और उस जब आप ये बात पहली दफ़ा सुनते हो व्हेन यू आर लाइक 13-14 ईयर ओल्ड, आपको लगता है कि ठीक है मुझे पतला होना चाहिए बिकॉज़ मैंने शादी भी करनी है आगे जाके, राइट? ये मुझे बताया गया है। फिर ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम मुझे ये भी बताया गया है कि उफ़ तुम इतनी ऊँचा बोलती हो, तुम इतनी ज़्यादा बोलती हो और तुम लाइक टाँगे खोल के बैठती हो। ये चीज़ें दीज़ आर नॉट सूटेबल थिंग्स फॉर अ गर्ल, राइट? Whether that be an ideal Desi woman, but these things are not suitable for a girl. तो ये बातें जब आप सुनते हो बचपन में, आप कहते हो ठीक है, आप clearly you are not in that box and now you have to do something to fit into that box because आपकी शादी होनी है, राइट? आप एक एज तक पहुंचोगे और आपकी शादी ना हो, लोग आपको बेसिकली लोग क्या कहेंगे, राइट? वही वाली बात हो जाती है। तो ये these were a few things that I heard for myself, and then external for other women that I heard was basically she's too educated. वो बहुत अपना लाइक उसका इतना बड़ा बिजनेस है, वो कभी एक शादी में खुश नहीं रह सकेगी। um, इतनी बड़ी हो गई है, इसकी कैसे शादी होगी? ये बातें मैंने बहुत सुनी हैं। और फिर मैंने ये भी सुना है कि कॉम्प्रोमाइज़ करना चाहिए शादी में, क्योंकि जब तुम्हारी डिवोर्स हो जाएगी ना, उसके बाद तुम्हें कोई एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेगा बेसिकली। और इट्स ट्रू, बहुत सारी फैमिलीज़ नहीं एक्सेप्ट करती हैं औरतों को वापस जब उनकी डिवोर्स हो जाती है। सो एक प्रेशर बन जाता है औरत पे कि शादी को चलाना है, बिकॉज़ अगर नहीं चलाऊँगी तो हस्बैंड से पड़ेगी, और अगर फुल नहीं चलाऊँगी, अगर डिवोर्स हो जाएगी तो फिर पेरेंट्स भी मुझे एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे, राइट? तो मैं उधर की रहूँगी, ना मैं उधर की रहूँगी, तो एक प्रेशर बन जाता है एक औरत पे। सो ऑल दीज़ बायसेस, ऑल दीज़ स्टीरियोटाइप्स are basically a pressure towards the women, हमारी तरफ तालिया, like you and I, हमारे पे एक प्रेशर है। और ये बहुत सारे लोग बोलेंगे कि हम एक्सप्लिसिटली ये प्रेशर नहीं, हमने कभी आपसे ये नहीं कहा कि आप ये करें, जो तुमने जीना है जियो अपनी जिंदगी। But implicitly all these stereotypes, all these biases are in place, right Talia?
100%. I think ये आपने इतनी खूबसूरत बातें की, खूबसूरत तो नहीं, I mean in the sense कि I'm thank you for sharing your experience and
For
the
sure.
experience that you've had. I think definitely I've had the exact same experiences. I think मैं जिस दिन से I can remember hearing things, I've heard from my own family around me as well. अगले घर जाओगी so what's gonna happen, right? Like तुम्हारी सास तुम्हारे नखरे देखेगी. Like since I have no idea like what the word sass even means, but I have been told कि what your sass is going to not like what you're doing. And what am I doing? I may be asking for something a little louder, or I'm asking for, I'm asking for something that's my basic right. आपने बहुत अच्छी बात बोली right now, okay, it's the trajectory, because essentially that's it. They see women are being raised to be prepared to become someone's wife or a mother. So any skill set, any personality trait which is not which does not define you as a good mother and a good wife is not going to be acceptable, or is going to be a threat. So right then that's going to be stopped. कि आप कुछ क्यों करो, आप डांस करते हो तो क्यों करोगे, क्योंकि कोई आपको आपको गलत समझेगा. Right, and we can challenge that idea too, okay, like what is wrong with that, and we'll do a podcast on that later. But for example, like I would so I grew up, I was raised by a single mom, as I mentioned in my podcast before. So I worked as like my mom's partner, as a business partner, and as her own partner in her in my relationship with my mom, because I had a younger brother, and then my mom didn't have anybody to seek support from. In this period, I also took on responsibilities at home, which are, I think, sabko karni chahiye. Boys and girls, everybody should know how to look after their home, be all this. But there was this concept of being domesticated, right? And I used to like it when people tell me, "Acha, Talia to bahut gharelu hai," or "Talia bahut achhi bahu banegi," या "ये तो जिसकी बीवी बनेगी बड़ा ही lucky होगा." And when I was 18, like I think all the way up to like 21, 22, I liked that compliment, or I know, not like I appreciated it. I just felt good when I heard it, right? Because that is what I was told was a good Desi woman, right? I had to become that.
I would just like to say, इसमें आपकी कोई गलती नहीं है, ये बहुत सारे like we are trying to fit on those boxes, right? And if somebody compliments you by saying you are fitting into that box, it is naturally a good thing, because you're like, ठीक है, I am succeeded.
I'm doing something right.
Exactly.
Exactly. And it was only like a little later is that when I started realizing that I was, the sone ki, the chidiya in the pinjra, like I was being happy being put in this cage, and I was saying, oh wow, look at this, like you're
Yeah.
dressing me nicely, but actually I'm just being put in the cage, right? So I would hear things like, for example, like, um, it was even at that point, like I've always been very loud as well. Like I'm a very loud person. So I would be told ke pedi janani, and it's a Punjabi term, right? Like pedi is like bad and janani is or like pedi jananiyon ki tarah argue mat kiya karo. इतनी लंबी जुबान है तुम्हारी, बंदों को पसंद नहीं आती है. And then I've even heard इस तरह की जुबानों पे औरतें मार खाती हैं. I've even heard this, right? So I've been so my argument, what I'm trying to ask for has not been heard, but you're telling me right then and there because I'm voicing, right? कोई इंसान चीखता है तो वो चीख इसलिए रहा है क्योंकि something disagreeable is happening to that person, right? But you're telling that person, no, you shut up, right? What you're saying is not acceptable.
Also,
right?
they're taking the responsibility to remind you that तुम्हारी जुबान काट दी जाएगी अगर तुम किसी के सामने ऐसे बोलोगी, हम तो सह लेंगे.
और एग्जैक्ट, और ये भी कह रहे हैं कि थप्पड़ पड़ेगा, ये मार पड़ेगी. सो वंस अगेन हम we're saying this is okay, this is a part of a normal relationship जहाँ पे औरत को थप्पड़ पड़ सकता है.
बिल्कुल सप्रेस कर रहे हैं आप अपनी वॉइस को.
आप सप्रेस कर रहे हैं. like I just want people to know this. if there कोई भी लड़की, कोई भी इंसान ये पॉडकास्ट सुन रहा है, किसी भी सिचुएशन में, किसी भी हाल में, no human has a right to physically harm another person. चाहे वो थप्पड़ हो, चाहे वो धक्का हो, चाहे वो कुछ हो. No one can touch you and hurt you at all, right? And to ever make promises of this is disgusting, right? And I've even, like, a friend of mine one day, like, there was somebody actually sent me this post, and it was like this old movie, Bollywood movie of, like, I don't even know who it was, like Shah Rukh Khan ki koi stupid si koi purani movie thi with Madhuri Dixit. I don't even know what it was. And he's a psychopath lover or something in there, and he's literally beating her up. And they're all like showing it as like, dekha jo ladkiyan baat nahi sunti, like it was like a meme that they had made. And I just got so disgusted and angry. I thought, like, how can you even think this is acceptable, right? To even have a conversation about that, right? And these are people who live here, people who work here as well. And this is not someone who's aapki jo ek aur stereotype hai jiske baare mein abhi jayenge about the middle, yani ki aapko lagta hai ki uneducated, submissive Desi women. Like, no, it's that is not a fair judgment. आप सारे देसी औरतों को एक ही picture से paint नहीं कर सकते हैं, right? Like, and by Desi women then too, like Muslim women, Pakistani women too, there's this understanding that we're all submissive, that we have no options given to us, right?
Yeah,
that
no voice.
We are no voice, right? And I think abhi jo shadi ki, just another top, I just want to add one more thing, right? Like, you keep telling girls to live their life, to prepare themselves to be accepted by this knight in shining armor, this stranger. We don't know who the stranger is, हम उसको जानते नहीं हैं, लेकिन हम उसकी खातिर अपनी ख्वाबों को, अपनी dreams को, अपनी हर चीज को कम करते हैं. So for example, like, even I remember up to a certain point in my time, like life a few years ago too, I wanted to work like in a different country. I wanted to move away, right? And people would come and say, like, लेकिन शादी के बाद कर लेना ना, like फिर move करना पड़ेगा, like you have to move for the husband. And why is that an expectation that the woman has to move for the man and the man can't move, right? Let's say wherever they meet, or can't I go and find somebody where I go and work, right?
Boxer, right? Like, how can a woman have financial independence, agency before they're getting into marriage, right? The husband has to allow the woman, or has to be accepting ke, हाँ, ये तुम कर सकती हो अगर मैं इजाजत दूँ. तो आई थिंक वो आइडिया उनको, लाइक, ये तो हम बहुत ही आगे बात कर रहे हैं, राइट? बिकॉज ये तो दिस गोज ओवर द हेड. ये बात कि औरत चूज करेगी कहाँ रहेंगे, या शादी के बाद हस्बैंड औरत के पास जाएगा, ये आइडिया तो अभी पहुंचा ही नहीं, राइट?
कहीं पर भी नहीं.
So
or
hard.
like even this idea about, like, कि लड़की के parents can't come and stay with the guy's family, right? कि हमने इसको इतना, and even to like this day, like I'll even say, like in my own household too, like there's this whole thing कि like the girl's family cannot live with the girl after her marriage, right? लड़की की family रह सकती है, but not. So like once again हमने क्यों, और अगर कोई लड़का रहता है, for example, उसको घर जमाई बोलते हैं, whatever we say, but like once again, like there's so many restrictions on a woman. Like, you're taught from day one that बेटा तुम जाओगी अपने दूसरे घर, this is
बिल्कुल
not your, like, तुम्हारी बस तुम settled हो जाओ. So, and like, this thing always pisses, like, अपने घर जाओ और अपने घर settle हो, even if you're paying the bloody rent, even if you are the one who makes, like, enough to keep everyone safe and sheltered, but even then तुम अपने घर में नहीं हो, तुमने अभी अगले घर जाना, like, what is this, right? यार, like, ये कहाँ से आ रहा है? Like, what is the
बिल्कुल
concept of settled? Like, why am I not settled? I'm a settled human being, right? And these concepts, like, these are biases. And you mentioned something really good about, like, कि ज़्यादा पढ़ जाओगी तो शादी कौन करेगा? I've heard, how many times have I heard this, right?
me
And
too
I mean, I remember, like, when I was, like, finishing my masters and stuff, they're like, अच्छा बहुत पढ़ लिया, अब आगे और नहीं पढ़ना, और कितना पढ़ना है, right? And like,
yeah
when I say I want to do a PhD, sometimes they're like, what? क्यों? वो क्यों करना चाहिए शादी के बाद? Like, कि चलो तब at least you'll have somebody, right? Like,
yeah
why? So you have to be smart enough. इतना पढ़ लो, like, people want Dr. Bahus too, right? You want a Dr. Bahu, but you don't want her to practice. You want her just so that she can be a trophy, like a really nice accessory for your husband, for him to show around. But that's it. And then Mehru, you mentioned something about, like, color, right? And color and
गोरी होनी
weight.
चाहिए
Like, like, have there been, like, experiences where you've had that, like, where you've seen that, like, in, like, real life, कि शादियों पे जाके, in relationships where you've seen people be discriminated against because of their color or body type?
Yeah, I think मेन बात ये होती है कि शादी पे इतनी फाउंडेशन लड़कियों को लगानी पड़ती है, ब्राइट कलर, लाइक फेयर कलर्ड फाउंडेशन, ताकि जो उनका रियल स्किन कलर है ना वो नजर ना आ जाए पिक्चर में, राइट? क्योंकि जब मेकअप उतारते हैं तो सबका डल ही होता है स्किन कलर, गोरी हो या डार्क स्किन हो, बट लाइक शादी पे ये चीज बहुत होती है कि आपका फाउंडेशन कलर बहुत ही लाइट कर देते हैं ताकि पिक्चर्स में वो गोरी आए, राइट? और दूसरी बात ये है कि मैंने खुद एक एग्जांपल, वो एक यूट्यूबर है मोरू, बहुत फेमस, उसकी मैंने बहुत पहले एक वीडियो देखी थी जो उस पे जब उसकी शादी हुई थी, बिकॉज हर वाइफ इज शॉर्ट एंड डार्क स्किन, सो ही literally, because people were like bashing him in the comments, right? कि oh तुम्हारी बीवी ये है वो है, like how can you marry someone like that? तो वो भी जब मैंने देखा था, I was so furious. I was like, you're kidding me, right? और उसके बाद मोरू ने एक वीडियो बनाई थी जिसमें वो कुछ उसकी लाइक सपोर्ट कर रहा था, उसको अप्रिशिएट कर रहा था, और उस पर भी I was so furious कि I was like कि इतना सोसाइटी का प्रेशर है कि उस बंदे को वीडियो बनानी पड़ी एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए कि क्यों उसको वो पसंद है, राइट? लाइक इतना आपने उसको पुश कर दिया, या आप इतना क्वेश्चन कर रहे हो उसके स्किन कलर को और उसकी हाइट को कि आपको वीडियो बनानी पड़ी और बताना पड़ा. यू हैव टू एक्सप्लेन योरसेल्फ व्हाई यू लव समवन लाइक दैट और व्हाई यू गॉट मैरिड टू समवन लाइक दैट, राइट? तो ये बात मेरे पे बैठती नहीं. और आई ऑल्सो नो कि जैसे यार बचपन में फेयर एंड लवली, क्यों फेयर एंड लवली है? वी नो व्हाई फेयर एंड लवली इज आउट. अभी तक हमें पता है कि क्यों चलती है वो, क्योंकि आई एम नॉट सेइंग कि औरतों की गलती है कि वो फेयर एंड लवली यूज करती है बिकॉज दे वांट टू बी ब्राइट, दे वांट टू बी फेयर एंड ब्राइट लुकिंग, राइट? ये हमें सिखाया गया, ये हमें बताया गया है, तो फिर औरतें भी वही खरीदेंगी, राइट? क्योंकि एक दिन मुझे किसी ने आर्ग्यूमेंट की थी, ओ फेयर एंड लवली इसलिए चल रही है क्योंकि लड़कियां खरीदती रहती हैं, तो मैंने देखा लड़कियां यूज करती हैं. आई एम लाइक इट डजंट वर्क लाइक दैट. ठीक है, आपने इतना प्रेशर डाल दिया है औरतों को पे कि आपको फेयर एंड लवली यूज करनी है कि फेयर एंड लवली बिकेगी क्योंकि औरतें खरीदेंगी, पर औरतों की इसमें कोई गलती नहीं है. हाँ, ये जरूर है कि अगर आपको पता चल गया है कि यू शुड बी हैप्पी इन योर ओन कलर, डू नॉट ट्राई टू फिट इनटू अ बॉक्स, आप shouldn't buy those
लेकिन
things.
वो लड़की कैसे होगी?
बिल्कुल,
ठीक है, उस लड़की को जब
अवेयरनेस.
उसके घर में रिश्ते आएंगे, वो आंटियां कहेंगी लड़की बहुत काली है, रिश्ता आएगा ही नहीं उसका रंग देख के, राइट? और उस लड़की को पता है कि आपने उसके लिए ऑलरेडी बाहर में जॉब मार्केट क्या है औरत के लिए, what is out there for her. Half of the time you haven't even given her the opportunities to have explore her potential. And then let's say if she's from a vulnerable background, for her to be able to go out and work, कहाँ काम करेगी वो लड़की? उसको कहाँ पे मिलेंगी उसको वो सारी आसाइशें जो चाहती है, right? Like,
तो ये आर्ग्यूमेंट ही नहीं है कि फेयर एंड लवली औरतें खरीदती हैं तो इसलिए बिकती है. डर सी बात है, इतना प्रेशर है उस लाइक जो भी आप उस औरत को वो जो करना चाहती है, एवरीथिंग नीड्स टू बी इन दिस वन बॉक्स. गोरी होनी चाहिए, पतली होनी चाहिए, राइट? तो ये तो आर्ग्यूमेंट है ही नहीं.
And I'll actually share my own story with you. Like even media shows this. तुम Fair and Lovely की बात करियो. So you know one like commercial that I remember from my childhood that I probably, because I moved to Canada when I was 11, right? So this commercial probably is from when I was like 8 or 7 or 8. And I remember this commercial of this girl, and Fair and Lovely ka commercial tha. And this girl is from like she is a single child, only child, sorry. And her parents are like, they're from a lower income household, or wo bade struggle kar rahe hain. So the girl is going for jobs. She keeps going to all the adverts, ko respond karti, kuch ko le nahi raha jo bhi hai. They're showing like dhool and mitti, right? That she's traveling in like the rickshaws, and she has like, they're showing like dusky complexion, and she has all this pasina. And then somebody like gives her Fair and Lovely or something, and she goes and puts Fair and Lovely on, and all of a sudden, right, like I remember her wearing like this pink outfit, and like her hair's, and then all of a sudden and somehow she's like 6 shades lighter than what she was before. And then she goes and she gets a job as like an air hostess. And she gets that job, and then right then they show a scene of the pilot walking by and just being stunned by her beauty, like, and like and the commercial, and that commercial had such a big impact on me as a child. I was like, oh, so I need to be I want, and I think at the age of 8 or something, I don't know who I went with or but I got Fair and Lovely, because I wanted to put Fair and Lovely on, right? And because my skin is slightly dark. I'm not by any means dark or anything. So I can't say I have the same experiences as women who are darker skinned and who would get much more discriminated further. But even within my own family, my pupos, for example, and my other relatives, for example, would say, oh, like, as opposed to my brother who was fair skinned, I would always be called Kali. And I'm not saying they were like discriminating against me, but always would be called, oh, tumhara to rang hum pe chala gaya. Kisi like apne upar hi bolti thi, tumhara to rang hum pe chala gaya hai. And I would just think, okay, like, मुझ में कोई problem है फिर शायद, right? Like, oh God.
हाँ, ये भी तो कहते हैं ना, धूप में मत जाओ, काली हो जाओगी.
धूप में मत जाओ, चाय ना ज्यादा पियो, काली हो जाओगी.
यार मतलब कि भाई ना जाओ,
शादी मीटर डाउन हो जाएगा. Nobody wants to marry you. Like,
मतलब कि it's like a game, तालिया. आप जितना जो अच्छी चीजें करोगे उतने पॉइंट्स मिलेंगे, और उतने ही आपकी शादी सूटेबल होगे आप. और जितना धूप में जाओगे उतने ही पॉइंट्स कम होंगे और आप डार्क स्किन्ड हो जाओगे.
Exactly. And like, like if you ever see like shadi ke see like wedding videos, or you see like a couple who's like in love or something, but you see them with like the guy is fair skinned and the girl is not, or like the girl is heavy set and the guy is skinny or something, you're like, ये तो लव मैरिज हुआ, पता नहीं इसने क्या काला जादू कर दिया इस लड़के पे, ये तो इस लड़की ने इसको फंसा लिया है, क्या किया है. I hear this all the time.
I would like to share my experience too, and I'm really कि इतना मुझे affect किया था, because as I said कि I've always been a larger person, like overweight and stuff like that, right? So when I was told that मोटी लड़कियों की शादी कभी नहीं होती, from a very young age, I was just like, जब मैं किसी की देखती थी शादी जिसमें the bride is on the heavier side, larger than the husband, it is always like, in my mind I was just like, ये हुआ कैसे, right? इनकी शादी, like, in my mind, which is so sad, I was just like, oh, the guy was forced probably to get married to a larger girl, because a normal looking guy or a skinny guy will never want to get married to a larger girl. Like, that was what was ingrained in my brain, right? And then with age, I remained large, I remained overweight, right? But I still got attention from boys, right? Now, this is where it gets interesting, Talia. When I was whatever 16, 17, 18, I was still a larger girl. Like, I lost some weight, gained some weight, but I was still a larger girl. And so I used to get attention from boys right and left, right? Now, this is where I got confused, because I was like, what is happening? I have been told I'm a fat girl who is not capable of love of any sort, of any attention. But here I am getting attention from boys who are skinny, big, small, whatever, right? So what is happening? Now, that confused me. And then that was my like, kya kehte hain, awakening to say, no, big girls can be loved, and big girls have the right to be loved, and big girls do get married, and nothing is forced. If they want to love someone, they can go ahead and love someone. that I'm so glad that happened to me. But
Good for you, Mehru.
it was so hard. And this is why biases and stereotypes are so harmful. Not only because you're oppressing another group of people or you're prejudiced against them, but it is so harmful for, like, for example, me, myself. I had to question so much about my own self, and it's always been a journey, and it still is. And that is the sad part. That is why it's harmful, because I was in a battle with my own self, right? I couldn't lose weight. It was so hard for me. I couldn't um like shut my mouth at appropriate times. Just naturally मैं बोलती हूँ बहुत वगैरह, and it was so hard for me कि just because किसी का bias, किसी का stereotype था, I had to fit into something. मैं अपने साथ हमेशा I was in a battle with myself, and for a very long time I could not love myself. And that is why biases and stereotypes, in my opinion, are super harmful, because you're basically removing a person from who they truly are just so they can fit into a box. And that is absolutely disgusting, because आप किसी को अपने आप से लड़ाई करा रहे हो, right? You're always trying to fit into something. आप हमेशा कहते हो मैं ये करूंगी, ठीक है, I have to use Fair and Lovely. और मैंने खुद Fair and Lovely बचपन में यूज किया. सोचो मैं I'm still a lighter skin girl. मैं और अपने आप को ब्राइट करने के लिए या मैं अपने आप की लाइट स्किन मेंटेन करने के लिए, क्योंकि मैं बहुत भाई स्पोर्ट्स खेलती थी और मैं धूप में जाती थी, मुझे पता था मैं डार्क हो जाऊंगी और मैं टैन हो जाऊंगी, तो मैं फेयर एंड लवली यूज करती थी कहने के लिए कि ठीक है मैं आई विल रिमेन लाइट. और इतनी गंदी स्मेल है बाय द वे फेयर एंड लवली की. आई जस्ट रिमेंबर. बट कितना कितना ये सिस्टम आपको प्रेस अपनी तरफ कर देता है, राइट?
नहीं, for sure. Like I think एक नहीं, दो नहीं, चार, इतने oppressive system ने औरतों पे डाले हैं. मेरू, like this thing is so important that you just said about like how other people make you feel. Like I'm still on the heavier side, but I've still worked a lot on my own body to get healthier in shape. But as a teenager, I was obese. Like I'm not gonna say heavy. I'm gonna say I was obese, which was a health risk as well. But I felt so ugly. Because people made me feel ugly, right? These were elders, like relatives. आपको बच्चे की दफा bully करते वो भी होता है, और जब आपको बड़े आके करें, जैसे मुझे कोई आके ना, they would pinch my fat or something, so I would feel really ashamed of myself, like I hated myself, and I never got attention from boys or anybody like that, क्योंकि मेरी इतनी low self esteem थी कि मैं अपने आप से नहीं मोहब्बत करती थी, and I used to think I am not desirable. और जब तक मैं अपनी इस अनडिजायरेबिलिटी को चेंज नहीं कर पाऊंगी, मुझे कभी भी कोई नहीं अपनाएगा. Like no one would ever want me, right? And then add on top of that, like the trauma of immigrating, being raised by a single parent, like seeing your family fall apart and all of that, like the mindset was so, like it was so difficult for me to break through those barriers. And add on top of that, I was somehow not the ideal Desi woman, and I was a big loudmouth, right? Like एक तो ना खूबसूरत है, ना ये है, ना वो है, ऊपर से मैं हर चीज पे डिबेट करती थी, and I had to work really hard and get good grades, and I did. But despite all that, अब दिमाग भी ज्यादा बढ़ रहा है, तो like इसको they had to like constrain me, right? Dance करने का भी शौक है, इतनी मोटी है, and they're like, interestingly, a girl just said this to me last year, Mehru, just last year, she said this to me. She said, like, we're just like, I'm just always so like, despite of everything, you still just like choose to dance so well. Like, oh, you just like have so like you just, and I'm looking at her like, what do you mean, like despite of everything? It was a choti pi, like she's in her early 20s or something, and I was like, yeah, thank you. I'm like, what kya bolu, right? Like I can't. Like I just walked away from that.
Yeah,
but it was just like,
और अगर आप कुछ बोलो तो आप कहते हो कि ओह ये देखा चलाक, इसको बोलने का शौक है.
But it was also like, it was a little hurtful and insulting to her, because what she meant is like, you being a fat girl, you still are so comfortable dancing in front of like 500 people. Like, yeah, because when I'm dancing, I really don't give a damn.
Little do you know.
Little do you know.
No, but thank you for sharing that. जैसे आपने कहा कि undesirable आप feel करते हो, ugly feel करते हो. Thank you for sharing that, Talia. Just want to say you're absolutely beautiful. But also want to say कि यही मसला है कि खूबसूरती अपीयरेंस पे इतनी डाल दी गई है एज एन आइडियल देसी वुमन कि पर्सनालिटी तो बाद में आती है, राइट? पर्सनालिटी तो चलो आती नहीं. वो बंदा जितना खुश मिजाज हो या जितना वो स्वीट हो, काइंड हो, प्यार करने वाली हो औरत, वो नहीं देखा जाएगा जितनी अपीयरेंस पे वेट डाला जाता है,
No, absolutely. And then even like hair. So I have had really curly hair my entire life. Now, ab to mere bechare baal bahut kam hi reh gaye hain. But and I wish, and I really like, I wish, like, this is gonna make me emotional even. Like, I wish I could go back to like the teenager that I was and just tell her that embrace your curls, love them for what they are, love your hair. I hated my hair. I wanted to straighten it my heart tarah se, and I had so much hair, Mehru, like such long, big curly. I had an afro almost, and it would take me 3 hours to just straighten it, right? But I hated it because mujhe log kehte the, oh, chiriyon ka ghonsla, oh my god, look at that. And of course, like, it was hard. Like, I didn't know like the curly girl method. I did not know back then कि कौन से products लगाने क्या नहीं लगाने, right? I hated my curly hair from the bottom of my heart. And it was only like, I think in university when I started like accepting it. But it was all about like, even I went to see some Desi people would say, oh, isko band kar do, right? Tumhare balon ko, and I've had aunties say this to me. Like, I can't remember where it was and what my age group was. But khair kaun tha, pata nahi, yaad nahi aa raha. But they like, mere dil karta tumhare baal pakad ke na ko band do. And I'm just like, okay, right? Like, it was once again like that, the emotions that they emote in as a child, you start feeling like mere par na jaise koi, you know, like koi gandi si koi growth hai or something like that.
Yeah.
That, so how can we say, because it doesn't fit in that image, right? The docile girl, because curly hair are out of the place, all over the place, right? They're larger than life, right? So you want someone in those nice plaits, and you want, like, you know, it's very interesting, right? The chiriyon ko ghonsla and stuff, these type of words hurt people.
For sure.
But because they don't fit in your ideal, right? And now if we move away from, like, let's say we move away from physical, like जिन चीजों पे आपको कंट्रोल नहीं है, like बाल, आंखें, रंग, इन सब चीजों पे आपको कंट्रोल भी नहीं है. Other things अगर, और आपके personal choices, उनको इतना जज किया जाता है. If you choose not to wear the hijab, if you choose to wear the hijab, if you choose to wear conservative clothing and non-conservative, if you choose to wear a skirt, आपके tattoos हैं, आप smoker हैं, आप drinker हैं, oh my god, जितने आपके ऊपर labels लगते हैं, like कोई, like
आवारा
I
औरत.
like किसी अवारा औरत तो फेवरेट वर्ड है हम सबका, या थर्ड क्लास औरत.
थर्ड क्लास.
और ये कितना बड़ा, और ये क्लास का पता नहीं हम कहाँ से ले आते हैं कि थर्ड क्लास औरत क्या होती है भाई. Right? Like all of this crap that
मुझे पेन में हंसी आती है, सिर्फ मुझे दर्द में हंसी आती है कि,
and और हम लोग इतने आराम से सुनते हुए आ रहे हैं, right? Like we hear this and we don't challenge this. And the thing is, आप ये सोचो, ये जो आप words बोलते हो, what impact are they having on that 8-year-old or that 5-year-old that's sitting there, the boy or the girl, right?
Yeah.
When you're like, you know, ये जो लड़की वो स्कर्ट पहन के आती है, ये है वो है, यही वो लड़का बाद में अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड के साथ घूमेगा जो स्कर्ट्स में होगी या जो भी होगा, लेकिन कहेगा नहीं, शादी तो मैं स्कर्ट वाली के साथ नहीं करूंगा.
बिल्कुल.
I've seen it happen here. I've seen
Me
this
too.
happen over here, where this guy who's had, you know, a whole like range of relationships, but it's like, nahi, I wouldn't want my baby to wear a skirt. I'm like, it's like, beta तेरे मुंह पे रख के मैं थप्पड़ मारूं. Like, you know, wake you up.
अर्ज किया है, रख के मैं थप्पड़ मारूं तेरे मुंह पे. नहीं सही,
पंजाबी में चंड मारूं मैं.
एंड मैंने भी बहुत देखा है तालिया, लाइक पार्टी उनके साथ करेंगे जो फ्री है, खुली नहीं है, फ्री वुमेन जो है, आवारा औरतों के साथ पार्टी करेंगे. पर जब घर पे बीवी लानी है तो फिर नो, वो ये ना करती हो, लाउड माउथ ना हो, वो लड़कों के साथ हैंग आउट ना करती हो,
क्योंकि आप नहीं चाहते हैं कि कोई भी आपको आके चैलेंज कर सके.
बिल्कुल. आप अपनी
आपके जो बंद सोच है, उस बंद सोच के आगे वो चिड़िया चुप करके बैठी रहे, आप उसको लाके गुची का बैग दे दो, आप उसको एक डायमंड की रिंग दे दो, या वो भी ना दो, उसको कुछ भी ना दो, और आप उसको बंद रखो और वो आपके किसी भी क्वेश्चन को ना कर सके. She should just become your private secretary. Like if you're that, like, you know, it's disgusting. ये transactional deal होती है. That's what they're trying. You don't want a partner then.
Yeah, exactly. You're just fitting into those. Again, you are reinforcing those ideas upon women and asking for so much. जैसे हम अभी मर्दों की बात कर रहे हैं, वही बात हो जाती है. I think stereotype है, right? कि मर्द रोते नहीं हैं. मर्द are not allowed to show their emotions. I don't know अगर ये stereotype के through. तो अगर आप किसी,
ये सारे मर्द एक जैसे होते हैं.
बिल्कुल.
And based off of that, what are girls taught? Girls are taught लड़कों के साथ दोस्ती नहीं करनी है.
बिल्कुल.
सारे के सारे लड़के एक ही चीज चाहते हैं. So you're also just like, you know, एक ही blank color से आप सारे आदमियों को कर रहे हैं कि सारे आदमी oppressors हैं, सारे आदमी abusers हैं. They are all going to end up just, you know, essentially they're going to be assaulting you. That's what हम सब इतने डर के बैठे हुए हैं. आप लड़कों से ना आप लड़कों से बात कर रहे हैं, ना उनको समझा रहे हैं कि औरत की इज्जत कैसे करनी है, और ना ही आप लड़कियों को समझा रहे हैं कि आपने अपनी प्रोटेक्शन कैसे करनी है.
बिल्कुल.
Like हम लोग ना सबके साथ these are basic human need, like एक relationship banana. All humans want to create a relation, have a partner, and more, not all, maybe that's too going further on my
Many.
part.
Many
Many,
South
but
Asians we know. Yeah.
many South Asians we know, and even non-South Asians too. I think humans are social animals. We want to build evolution ki taraf se bhi, we want to build families, we want to have that connection, we want to have a partner to share life with. तो एक ये म्यूचुअल अट्रैक्शन भी होनी है, हमारी फिजिकल नीड्स हैं, लेकिन बाय ये सोचना कि आप किसी को बंद कर दोगे कमरे में, उनकी सोच बंद रख दोगे तो ये होगा नहीं, दैट्स नॉट पॉसिबल. इट इज जस्ट नॉट पॉसिबल. आप किसी की जिंदगी को इस तरह से कंट्रोल, व्हाई नॉट, और आप उनको एक अनसेफ सिचुएशन में डाल रहे हो, उनको वनरेबल बना रहे हो अपने बच्चों को. आप लड़कों को ऑपरेशन की तरफ लेके जा रहे हो कि जहाँ पे वो ऑपरेसर बन जाए, और आप बच्चियों को लेके जा रहे हो उस पॉइंट पे जहाँ पे वो वनरेबल हो और एक्सप्लॉइट हो जाए.
बिल्कुल. आप लड़कों को सिखाते हैं कि यू हैव टू बी फाइनेंशियली रिस्पॉन्सिबल, पूरे घर का तुमने चलाना है, मेक श्योर तुम्हारी बीवी खुश रहे, उसको जो चीज़ वो मांगे उसको मिलती जाए. और ऑन द अदर हैंड अपनी बेटियों को सिखा रहे हैं कि तुमने अपने हस्बैंड की बात सुननी है, वो जो कहे वो करना है, अपने सास ससुर की बात सुननी है, राइट, ऑल दीज थिंग्स. सो आप, you're creating this barrier between them. You're not really, it's not a relationship, it is a transactional relationship. Then you have to be mindful of the things you're saying about other communities, other races, genders, right? Question your biases, right? आप हर रोज कुछ ना कुछ देखो. मैं भी implicitly, जैसे मेरे टेस्ट का रिजल्ट आया था कि मैं मर्दों को साइंस डिग्रीज में डालती हूँ और औरतों को ह्यूमैनिटीज में. मैं चाहती हूँ कि मैं ऐसे बिल्कुल ना सोचूं, पर ऑफ कोर्स ये बात है कि जैसी कंडीशनिंग हुई हुई है, वो नेचुरली निकल रहा है, इम्प्लिसिटली, राइट?
एब्सोल्युटली. लाइक इससे हमारा कसूर नहीं होता. लाइक
बिल्कुल.
दिस इज जस्ट हाउ वी बीन कंडीशनड, एंड these are, that's why it's called unconscious bias या implicit bias, right? And आप when you say something like oh सब ऐसे होते हैं, या आप किसी को देख के automatically judge कर रहे हो, right? अगर आपको कोई अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, ask yourself मुझे वो क्यों नहीं अच्छी लगी, right? Why? अगर आप अपने if your parent is saying, or somebody has said to you, oh stay away from that girl, ask yourself why, right? Like I'll give you an example. Like we a long time ago when we were teenagers, we went to another city, and there's a big family gathering, and I'm really close with my older guy cousins, right? Like, and we have like a 10-year 12-year age difference, and they've always been like really supportive of me. So like whenever they see me, we hug and stuff. And mere bade bhai hain, right? Like honestly, like they've always been there for me, my mom. They've just been really close. And these other relatives, like this other girl who's been born and raised over here, she came and told me that her aunt was telling her to stay away from me and stay away from boys, like stay away from boys, because like the word was like, I think ye khud bhi dubegi to maybe dubaegi or something like that. It's like some really stupid and I think I never told my amma, because my amma is not like, my amma doesn't think like this, right? My mom would go out like in her full shareni mode, like what did you say, and about my daughter, this and that. But like at that time, but it stayed with me to this day. I haven't forgotten that, right? And after that, like I was never able to connect with that auntie. But right, like ये तो हो गए, like इतने सारे, like आपने बड़ों ने जो बच्चों पे डाले होते हैं ना, इवन जो मर्द भी करते हैं औरतों से एक्सपेक्ट, राइट? लेकिन आई थिंक एक और भी चीज है कि जिस तरह एक्सटर्नली यहाँ पे एक अरेंज मैरिजेस भी एक कॉन्सेप्ट, ऑफ कोर्स इट्स अ कोर कॉन्सेप्ट, लेकिन उसके अंदर भी बायसेस ये है कि सारे अरेंज मैरिजेस फोर्स्ड होते हैं या अनहैप्पी मैरिजेस होते हैं, राइट? And like
आप इमिग्रेंट सोसाइटी में आप रेलेवेंट, आई वुड से कि आपसे पूछा जाता है एज अ देसी औरत आपसे, oh will you be getting an arranged marriage or will you,
all the time.
Now that question I understand कि those who are absolutely not aware have always put this thing कि arranged marriages are forced, right? But then you have to explain to them कि yeah I'm okay, and because arranged marriage का concept is very different, right? Like अब तो बहुत ही change हो चुका है, but even regular arranged marriage was कि families discuss करती हैं, बात करती हैं, idea पेश करती हैं, और अगर दोनों sides accept कर लें then it's an arranged marriage, right?
And most of the time the guy and girl can have a conversation, they can talk to each other and like each other. Absolutely.
Exactly. But however the misconception is that probably the जैसे रिश्ते सिर्फ मर्दों की साइड मांगते हैं, राइट? लाइक ये भी बुरा देखा जाता है, लड़की वाला रिश्ता नहीं मांगते. ये भी एक लाइक स्टीरियोटाइप है, बायस है कि लड़की वाली साइड. तो बेसिकली फोर्स अरेंज मैरिज ये है कि यूजुअली मर्द की साइड मांगेगी रिश्ता, और the girl has no option, she has to say yes. If the parents say yes,
yeah, like and I have experienced this myself, like where like I think my mom is just very like, I call my mom bindas. She doesn't really care. Like I think my mom would just like, she's like, oh, I like you. I think you're good looking. Like my mom's like that. She's like, she will literally tell anybody that. Like people I think get intimidated by that
No,
as
that's
well.
good.
But people have said like, you know, oh, ladki wale rishta nahi mangte and stuff, and you're like I'm just like, that never made sense to me. Like
Yeah.
क्यों? Like why? And my amma would say, she's like, मगर क्यों? अगर कोई आपको चीज पसंद आ रही है, कोई बंदा पसंद आ रहा है, why can't you say? But it's that कि लड़की की पसंद ही नहीं होती है.
हाँ.
So we have tried to construct a woman who has no desires. How the hell is that possible?
Agency नहीं है मतलब कि औरत के पास कि वो भी कुछ पसंद कर
Agency तो बाद में आती है. मेरू आप desire ही नहीं करते, आप पत्थर हो. Like what the heck?
Why did you even think?
आपके पास दिल ही नहीं है. आप एक बस
तुमने आंखें क्यों खोली अपनी? तुमने
रोटियां बनाने वाला रोबोट हो. आटा गूंदो और रोटी बनाओ.
बिल्कुल. ये स्टीरियोटाइप बन चुका है, राइट? और अगेन इट्स हार्मफुल बिकॉज again आप कंफ्यूज कर देते हो लड़की को. She can do so many other things, but when it comes to this one thing, this is untouchable, right? You cannot do it.
Absolutely. And no, and then there's this other thing about like Muslim women too, is like what Muslim women are like forced into like, you know, these abusive relationships, or jahan pe second BBB hogi.
Bilkul.
Like I've heard many times from other people, oh, like Muslim people, they usually have multiple wives, right? And it's just like, it's part of like, yes, like many people in Islam, like I'm not going to talk about from an Islamic point of view, but then that's also like a bias and a stereotype that we have to fight externally, right? Or like, you know, Muslim women are like South Asian Desi women are like, you know, they're very docile, they're very domesticated, right? So even in the workplace, you have to really fight that. Or let's say you want to wear like a sari to work, or like you want to wear shalwar kameez to your workplace. You're already fighting so many social constructs, right? That you constantly feel like you're policed. It's all bloody bakwas, yaar.
It's such an interesting topic, and it is like, I think we both are very passionate about this because हम खुद question बहुत करते हैं चीजों
को. And like remember Mehru, like when we first started, like, oh Mehru, like तुम्हारा कोई bias है? Like मेरा कोई bias है? And we're like नहीं, हमारे कोई biases नहीं है. But like think about it, we grew up with all of these biases, right?
Yeah.
I had to like Mehru, like it's not like I had to not actively like tell myself कि ये बकवास है, ये किसी ने अर्ज नहीं किया, ये इन्होंने अपनी तरफ से बना लिया, this is nothing, right? कि कोई लड़की tattoo है तो it does not mean anything. It just means she has a tattoo on her body. उसको tattoo पसंद था, उसने बना लिया. वो सिगरेट पीती है, उसको एक addictive subject है, वो पी रही है. आंटी मुझसे आप ये मत पूछे कि आप रात को कितनी नशे की गोलियां खा के सोती हैं, right? Like please, पहले आप अपनी एडिक्शन को ठीक करें, फिर आप आके मुझसे बात करें कि वो लड़की कितनी सिगरेट पीती है. ओके, लाइक थैंक यू.
चाय की एडिक्शन आंटियों की, वो तो कोई नहीं बात करता, वो भी एडिक्शन है.
और अंकल, अगर आपको किसी की स्कर्ट से प्रॉब्लम है ना, पहले अपनी आंखें जाके ठीक करवाएं.
या अब मैं बोलूंगी नहीं, बट अंकल्स की ब्राउजिंग हिस्ट्री में जाके देखें तो
right, like I've heard so many times from people, like especially like brown men, like who are second generation brown men who've been born or raised here, or I don't know, I guess they lived in Pakistan, but like the burger bacha type peoples that have been here. And I've heard them say this, and maybe I'm stereotyping and generalizing that group, but definitely I've heard them say, oh, we don't want to be with a brown girl, or like brown girls are so reactive, right? Like, oh God, they're so demanding. Like, why are you guys so needy? Excuse me? Like, how can you minimize the experience of a brown woman? Like this girl who's had to deal with all of this social constructs, has been fighting them from day one. उसपे इतनी restrictions लगी हैं पहले दिन से, उसके बावजूद वो कर रही है. उसको पहले से बताते हैं जी बेटा पढ़ो, फिर कहते हैं पढ़ो ना क्योंकि तुम बहुत ज्यादा स्मार्ट हो जाओगे. तुमने इस तरह से दिखना है, तुमने इस तरह से दिखना नहीं है. You can talk to this person, but you can't talk to that person. You have to be here, you can't be here. Like constantly her body's being
she's been breeded in captivity again, right?
Absolutely. And then she's been told, beta abhi settle hona hai, you have to go, like you have to marry somebody, then you can do something. So all of these, and she's breaking free, and you're saying she's reactive, really? And you think you're very like some sort of like Prince Charming and someone with this huge, like, you know, तुम्हारी औकात क्या भाई, तुम कह रहे हो कि तुम्हें like बेटा में बैठ जाओ, पहले घर जाके ना अपने घर जाके अपना खाना पकाना सीखो, फिर आके बात करना.
Yeah.
Like,
No, for sure. आप जब आप ऐसा क्वेश्चन कहते हो या आप अपनी ऐसी स्टेटमेंट देते हो कि oh, I'm not, that's my type, brown girls are not my type, that's such an ignorant statement, right? First of all, you've generalized brown women into one thing who are reactive and just do, like, you're unable to be attracted to them because of this particular thing. And then also you're stereotyping ke as a brown guy, you're holier than thou, and you have successfully uh, I guess culturally unassimilated yourself from the brown culture that you were brought up with, right? And you've
you're trying to distance yourself.
disassociated yourself, and you've done a good job at it. So now brown girls are not your type. This is not a remark
because you're above them. You're
exactly
above them. They're below, right? वो कोई stale माल है. Once again,
this is where you have, as a brown guy, if any brown guy is listening to this, you have to question yourself and say, okay, how can you say such a thing? Because you yourself have so many brown characteristics, South Asian characteristics in you as a brown guy, that of course you probably also had to go through similar things as the girl did, right? Because बच्चों में जैसे हम कह रहे थे मर्दों को भी कहा जाता है कि रोते नहीं हैं वगैरह वगैरह. So you should be able to question yourself and say कि वो biases तुम्हें कैसे affect करते हैं, right? How do those biases impact you, and how have they made you today? Like, are you avoiding something? Are you stopping yourself from something? Do you always have to remind yourself, okay, oh, I shouldn't do that, otherwise I would be like this, right? So that's where you have to question yourself, and rather than putting it on another group of people, another group of girls, be able to question yourself, and are you rightfully being honest to yourself, right? Because these biases are also affecting you at the same time, not only that group of people.
Yeah. And if and who knows, like, no Desi boy, if I highly doubt the type of men we are going to be listening to this point, and if they are, good for you, thank you for being here. At least you're being an ally. Mehru just blew you a kiss. But for any girls or any women who are out there, and when you hear anyone degrading Desi women in any form or shape, ask them. Mm-hmm. Like, what is it that you're degrading, and what are these experiences based off of? What are what have you done to help help liberate? Or not, you don't have to liberate, because we don't need rescuers. Women are doing it on their own. But what have you done to support them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Or have you just, like, you turned a blind eye and walked away from this, right? So ये बहुत बड़ा question है.
Exactly.
I think हमने अपने बहुत सारे like आज emotions बाहर निकाल के रखती हैं.
ये बहुत ही अच्छा points पे हम almost end करने वाले हैं कि आपने क्या किया है to question these biases, and have you uncovered any of these stereotypes? Have you questioned them in front of people when you've heard them? Because हम हर किसी से सुनते हैं. It's not like this world is full of biases.
Before we go though, Mehru, I think there's one group of women who we have not talked about, and those are the aunties, the Desi aunties.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think हम उनके बारे में बात किए बिना we'll be doing a disfavor to ourselves and to them. पहली बात तो ये, हम जो हैं जहाँ पर भी हैं today, it's because of the struggle of women who dare to speak and stand up for us before us. ठीक है ना? वो हमारी aunties. And so this concept of aunties, हम aunties को इतना hate करते हैं, इतना उनका मजाक बनाते हैं, इतने memes बनाते हैं, and this is so, and you paid. That's not the case, right? I think Hamari life made some of the biggest supporters have been these fabulous aunties, for me especially, women who have gone miles to support me. I will even give an example of, I know a woman who अपने बेटे का रिश्ता जिस लड़की से होने वाला था, that rishta didn't happen, but she funded that girl, and it kind of broke off, and it was sort of the girl's family that kind of also like were very uncooperative. But uske bawajood she funded the girl's education baad mein.
Wow.
And she was there for her, and she was there to support her throughout her life. Wow. There's been like, and for in my own personal life, like my amma's friends, they've been there to they're like, you're doing a great job. Hamara ye podcast right now, like, it's interesting. Like we have like khalas and aunties and appas. My ammi's puppo, so like my mother's puppo is watching and watches this. She's in her 80s in Islamabad. She watches this podcast, and she's like, we love it. Like, and she loves the conversations that we have. So that means so let's be easy on the aunties as well. Many of them have grown up in so many constraints, and many of them who are immigrants had to leave all of this behind and come into a society जहाँ पे कोई support नहीं थी. They had to
Yeah.
figure things out, right? And then we have all these like stereotypes कि सारी आंटियों को English नहीं आती है या वो uneducated हैं. Hell no. Have you had a conversation with aunties? They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're scientists,
And
artists.
language is not everything at the end of the day. English
It's
is not
not.
everything. Yeah.
It's just a bloody language.
हाँ, as you said before कि हम आंटीज को इतना डिग्रेड करते हैं. Maybe I should apologize for this. जब मैं कहती हूँ कि आंटी ने मुझे ये कहा, आंटी ने वो कहा, I'm not generalizing. These are 1, 2, 3 particular aunties that have
say it all the time
ruined my
too.
childhood. But there are also many good role models out there for us, and they've supported us, and they still are supporting us, and they can relate to this content, right? Because what they say is because many of these people have told us कि काश हमारी इतनी आवाज होती जब हम जिस एज पे तुम लोग हो, बिकॉज अगर उस वक्त हम ये
Exactly.
बोल सकते तो आज चीजें बहुत डिफरेंट होती हैं हमारे लिए, राइट? एंड
तो
दैट
हमें ये
सपोर्ट
आवाज
मीन्स अ
किससे
लॉट
दी
टू,
है?
या, एंड दिस आवाज totally is coming from the aunties, not all aunties are the best, but many of these women are, older women are like role models for us, and because of them we're able to voice our concerns, right, today at this podcast.
Absolutely. We can make the decisions we want. We can wear what we want. We can do whatever we want because there are all these aunties who've been there for us. And you know what? The aunties does not necessarily have to be someone who is ultra rich, who came from the affluent society. Nahi, middle class aunties who will wear their shalwar kameez and dupattas will be like, beta, जाओ जाके जिंदगी जियो, अपनी जो मर्जी करना है करो, कोई जरूरत नहीं किसी बंदे का वेट करने की.
बिल्कुल.
I've had, and that's how I've been raised, and it's been because of those aunties. There's been lots of aunties that have torn me down and built me, क्योंकि इस patriarchy की some of the biggest defenders are women, right? जो जानती नहीं है कि वो unconsciously ही इस oppressive system को वो आगे बढ़ा रही हैं.
प्रमोट करती हैं.
आगे बात कर लेंगे इसके बारे में किसी और दिन, but know कि there is no end to the biases and the stereotypes that we've created. मगर इनको challenge करना is a place to start and ask कि आप who are you to question any woman's choice, and secondly ये किसने अर्ज किया है कि एक अवारा औरत एक certain category में आती है और एक अच्छी लड़की certain category में आती है. जिंदगी में लड़की ने और बहुत कुछ करना है, सिर्फ बच्चे नहीं पैदा करने हैं और एक बंदे के लिए रोटियां नहीं बनानी है.
Amen.
Amen.
अर्ज किया है कि औरतों को उनके हाथ पे छोड़ दो.
like यार औरत से इतना डरते हैं हम, like हम इतना डरते हैं एक आजाद औरत से, like divorced औरत, she is a a threat to the बेचारे शरीफ males. अपने बंदों को संभाल के रखो. Like there's an issue with divorced ladies.
चलाक औरतें.
They're चलाक औरतें. Independent lady works. उफ खुदाया सांस रुक गया. मेरू आज इतना
ताला मेरा तो फोरहेड गर्म हो गया. इतने मजे की हमने बातें की हैं. खैर मजे की तो नहीं इन द सेंस के मजा आया सुन के, बट इट्स गुड टू टॉक अबाउट दीज थिंग्स, और ये हमारे दिल से बातें निकलती हैं. दीज आर थिंग्स के हम बहुत इंपॉर्टेंटली इनके बारे में फील करते हैं. सो थैंक यू फॉर डिस्कसिंग दिस विद मी टुडे. I really appreciate it, and thank you to everybody who watched this episode as well. Please like our video on YouTube and Instagram. Follow us on Arz Kiya Hai podcast on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Arz Kiya Hai. And
our podcast is now also available on Google and Apple Podcast, yeah, and Spotify. And so if you do like to, go for a walk, yeah, laundry kar rahe ho, please put our podcast on, listen to it. And also, please, agar aap Apple Podcast or Google Podcast pe jaate hain, you can go there, you can leave a review, and you can give us some stars. 5 stars would be absolutely desirable. So main aapse pretty please with a cherry on top, I'm asking you guys to please just take a second, and not a second, at least मुझे 1 मिनट तो लग ही जाएगा. Or maybe less. Just
अगर 1 घंटे का पॉडकास्ट देख लिए तो 1 मिनट तो बनता है यार.
देखिए अपना गला, we're drawing out our galas for you, right? And we're loving it, and we would love to continue doing this. So please support us and share. वो जो WhatsApp में ना झूठी मोटी कोरोना की वीडियोस भेज रहे थे ना एक दूसरे को, और पता नहीं कौन से हाँ WhatsApp मदरसा की जो भेजते हैं ना आप लोग दुआएं, like प्लीज अब आप ये भी कर दें कि आप ये भी शेयर कर दें. Thank you so much हमारे पॉडकास्ट को.
Yes, और जो अभी तक करता है, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Bye.